through them at the end of the presentation. And we are recording today's session for anybody that is not able to attend, and that is a good reminder to go ahead and press record. Thank you, Sarah. Again, in the chat box, you're just going to go ahead and put your name, your district or the organization that you're from, and then also the location. So during today's presentation, we will first provide a short overview of the Local Food for Schools Cooperative Agreement Program, going over the purpose and regulations of this program. We're going to have a short review of the first submission claim, which was from July 1st to August 30th. We will review the reimbursement process and the reporting that's due tomorrow on December 15th. There will be some information on how to procure local products, along with an outlet for open conversations and questions. So the Nebraska Department of Education has entered into a cooperative agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture to administer the Local Food for Schools program. NDE has been allocated nearly $1.5 million in funding to use towards eligible SFAs for the purpose of unprocessed or minimally processed domestic, locally grown foods from local producers, small businesses, and socially disadvantaged farmers. From the first round of allocations, NDE allocated $833,333.77 to 121 SFAs. And the amount that these SFAs were awarded were based off of student enrollment. So again, the LFS program overarching goals is to increase local food purchased in schools, to strengthen the local and regional food systems, to support the small, local, and socially disadvantaged farmers and producers in Nebraska, along with establishing, strengthening, and broadening partnerships between farmers, producers, and schools. And then some important definitions that we wanted to go over again. The local and regional definition. So for local and regional food, this is food that is raised, produced, aggregated, which is collected from multiple farmers, stored, processed, and distributed in Nebraska or within 400 miles if outside of Nebraska. And then the local or regional producer is farmers, producers, ranchers, processors, distributors in Nebraska or 400 miles of the delivery destination. And so that delivery destination would be where it's being delivered, such as your own school. And then again, LFS funds must also target socially disadvantaged producers, farmers, ranchers, and small businesses. A socially disadvantaged group is a group whose members have been subject to discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, age, disability, sex, marital status, familial status, parental status, religion, sexual orientation, genetic information, political beliefs, reprisal, or if their income or partially or fully derived from a public assistance program. A small business is defined as a for-profit business of any legal structure, independently owned and operated, and not nationally dominant in its field. It must also be physically located and operated in the U.S. or in its territories. So what can be purchased with LFS funds? So this chart can be used to determine what foods are considered unprocessed and or minimally processed. So allowable unprocessed or minimally processed foods, these would be minimally processed states and forms of whole, cut, or pureed foods, along with fresh, frozen, canned, or dried. So some examples of allowable foods would be fluid milk, again, just making sure that they are coming from a small business. Other dairy products such as cheese, shredded cheese, block, or even yogurt. You can use LFS funds for fruits and vegetables, which again include fresh, frozen, canned, dry, pre-cut, or 100% juices. Whole grain-rich products such as pastas and rice. Meats, whole pieces ground, and then also eggs. And you can also use it for meat alternates such as beans or legumes. So unallowable foods, which are considered processed, would be anything that's pre-made or ready to eat. Some examples would be a pre-made pizza, breads, muffins, crackers, pre-made sandwiches, chicken nuggets, or anything that's breaded, breakfast cereals, and then also produce seeds. So on this map, you will see all the SFAs which opted into the first round of LFS funds. So as you can see, we have a wide variety of schools on the eastern portion of Nebraska that are participating in this grant program. And this slide shows an overview of the first claim period from July 1st to August 30th. So from this claim, we had 27 SFAs that submitted a claim during this first period. We had $47,127 of total purchases spent on food from local small businesses. And then out of the $47,000, 27,257 of it was being used to purchase local beef, and that was the top purchase item from these first claims. We also had 25 producers that sold local food to SFAs, 5 of which were considered to be socially disadvantaged, and 14 connections were made from SFAs and small local businesses. And then through our agreement with the USDA, SFAs must choose to participate in the LFS program. They will be reimbursed for their local and regional food purchases through the school year. This requires that SFAs will submit a quarterly reimbursement request to NDE Nutrition Services. The deadline to submit these reimbursement requests are noted on this slide and can also be found on the LFS FAQ, which is on our website. And then upon reviewing the claims from quarter one, most, if not all, SFAs did a really great job in completing these reimbursement requests. But one thing that we wanted to know is to make sure that SFAs are being as specific as possible on the documents. So for a few different documents, they noted that they purchased vegetables or produce, and this would not be sufficient data. We would need to see the exact produce or vegetable that you were purchasing. And that's highlighted there in that green box where you can see that if I look at this, I can see that beef was bought, tomatoes, cucumbers, and sweet watermelon. And we just wanted to have a little announcement to let you all know that Nebraska was once again ranked as the 2023 Crunch Off Champions. On this page, we have a few different schools, Walt Hill Public School showing their crunch, the Super Kids Club in Broken Bow, and then also O'Neill Public Schools, just sending us awesome pictures from their crunch off this year. So thank you to everyone that participated in that. There'll be more information coming out in the next few weeks. And then Sarah is going to pop open some polls for you guys to let us know. So the first one would be, how do you plan to spend down your local Food for Schools program? So go ahead and click on which of these options would help you to spend down your local Food for Schools funds for this first allocated amount.
And it looks like it's a single choice, Taylor. So people are going to be picking their top choice, if I'm reading the poll correctly. Like we have a little more than half of the folks on this call that have responded so far. What we're seeing with the greatest response would be a budget spreadsheet template. And I'll end this poll so you all can see it here in a minute, but just in case we have a couple more people in the middle of answering and thinking through these options, quite a few people would really utilize a spreadsheet template and a newsletter to provide resources for sourcing local foods is also coming up really high. Okay, yeah, about 80% of the people on the call answered. We'll go ahead and end that poll. Let's see, here's results, share those results. Can you see those, Taylor? Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. So a budget spreadsheet template would be really helpful for a lot of people. Thank you for doing that one, Sarah. And then I think there's another one if you want to go ahead and activate that. Awesome. And then this one's just asking, how often would you like LFS open office hours? And again, just whichever one resonates with you the most.
This one's fast and furious. Answers are coming in.
Awesome. Yeah, I can see this one too. It looks like quarterly would be what most people are looking for. I think that would be great with the quarterly submissions as well. So thank you all for voting on those. And I'm going to the next slide. And Sarah is going to take over from here.
Thanks, Taylor. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're really excited to have this opportunity for having funds that are specific for the purchase of food and local food specifically. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Sarah. I'm a farm to school specialist in the Office of Coordinated Student Support Services at the Department of Education, and working closely with Nutrition Services to provide some support to you all as best we can to help you utilize these funds fully in a way that's really advantageous for your programs and your students. So the slide we saw a minute ago with the crunch off, just a note that the local food for schools funding that can be utilized in your school meals program, the National School Lunch Program, you can consider promotional events to infuse those funds into purchasing something like a local apple, and then leverage some of the promotional materials that we have in the state for those local products, like the crunch off for the apples, or if you do carrots or something like that. So just keeping that in mind, that as you plan out expending those funds, maybe there's an event or an activity that would coordinate in your National School Lunch Program that you could possibly spend some of those funds on. And of course, as we think about what's available now that it's getting to be colder at this time of the year and seasonality, we do have some resources available that help you understand what products might be available, especially those products that are a storage crop. So as you connect with farmers and producers that you have built some relationships with through this program or otherwise, you could consider asking them if they do have crops that they maintain in storage. And then also, as we get into the rest of this school year, we'll see some spring crops coming through. Remember that those funds can be used up until the end of the project period. And if you do have a bulk order of something like, we'll say asparagus, that's something that you could potentially blanch and freeze utilizing your produce safety knowledge and education. And if you have freezer space, some of these items could be stored for use not immediately, but in the coming weeks while you have the resource available to you. But of course, seasonality will depend on how diverse the products are from the farms that you know, whether or not they're utilizing season extension practices like hydroponics, or maybe you have some grow towers available to you, and that we can't always know exactly what unforeseen weather circumstances could provide us. So some key questions to ask as you get to know the local product and the vendors that you could source from. Next slide. This is just another picture of that school year versus the growing year to be considering now. Now is a good opportunity to think through what will be available in those spring months. What can you access in the winter that might be stored or frozen? And starting to consider, okay, in the next school year, what are we currently menuing or having on our fresh fruit and vegetable bar that might take some planning or production planning on the part of the farms to be planning for in advance for the next school year. So if you want to be sourcing tomatoes, peppers, onions, squash, all of those items that could be available in August and September, it can be a little overwhelming, but it will save you some seeking and finding in the future if you consider having some conversations up front and now about the next growing year as well. Harvest of the Month is a program that we've seen a lot of use in. So if you're looking for ways to connect your cafeteria purchasing with classrooms or educational opportunities, do take a look at some of the resources that you'll find for some of these products there. This is just a quick note about this as an opportunity to leverage as you consider what to purchase and how to teach about this in your cafeteria if you also want to be communicating to students how these items are available in our state and be teaching some of the agricultural sides of things. The next slide will show us we are expanding this program greatly. Right now, we're piloting with early care and education, 34 sites in our state, use of curriculum with the Harvest of the Month items, and we're wrapping up an expansion program for Indigenous foods. You'll see in the next several months, before the end of the summer, we will have released and made available summer products, tomatoes, berries, radishes, cucumbers, microgreens, other leafy greens, and we're also 2023 ends in 2 weeks. We're really close to having dairy, honey, and eggs wrapped, but those will be made available in the next school year as well. And so when you're looking to source local, we're wrapping up here and going to open up the conversation to your questions and conversations, lessons learned. But just a quick note on the next slide, you can see that just some ideas for sourcing local. Nebraska is very strong in sourcing direct from producers. When we look at other states, Nebraska is one of the states that utilize this as that directly from the producers is a great percentage of how we're accessing local foods and sourcing them into our schools. You can purchase from your local grocers. Just make sure that you know where the product is coming from. You can track it back and you're staying within the rules and regulations of how far the food has traveled for LFS and that it meets that definition of local. So buying from the local grocer doesn't make it local, but if the local grocer is selling local product, that would be a potential source for purchasing local. Processors like meat processors that are USDA would be a way to source local beef or pork. You can leverage food hubs and those that are aggregating food, your gardens that you have access to, their school gardens, farmers markets, and also Taylor has linked here the USDA local food directory, and she will send these slides out to you all after this call so you can have access to that link as well. Quick note here, Market Maker is a database that we are really growing in Nebraska. Ben Jewell leads that over at Extension. This is his email address and his phone number there. Also, that QR code will take you to a form where you could request one-on-one assistance from Extension on accessing Market Maker, how to use it, and how to find local product there. So this is one avenue for seeking local producers. Additionally, schools are able to complete a profile on Market Maker where you could put your information, what you're interested in as far as quantity, type of product, form the product would come in, and exactly what you're looking for. So producers can then reach out to you as well. So more to come on Market Maker in the coming months, but this is a good resource to consider exploring. Some other locations for finding local are listed here. Again, you'll get these slides, but the Nebraska Department of Agriculture, you can search specialty crop growers as well as farmers markets. Buy Fresh by Local Nebraska has a membership site for farmers that want to be members. They can list themselves in their directory. The Nebraska Beef Council lists beef producers and processors in the state. And then as far as finding those beef processors and producers that would have USDA processed and packaged beef, you would look at this USDA FSIS, the Food Safety and Inspection Service site. And you can add in the different variables that you're looking for to hone in on exactly how far you're willing to go for that USDA certified beef. And finally, Grow Nebraska, sometimes you can find some products there that would be local and can be shipped to you. So these are some options as far as finding local products. And Taylor, you want to walk us through what's happening next?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So just to put a little bug in your ear, we have a couple different local food for school events that are coming up. So we're going to be holding a virtual market meetup for local food for schools on Tuesday, January 16th, 2023. That will be 2024 at 3 p.m. And then we're also going to be having a webinar for procurement practices. So digging a little bit deeper into all the wonderful resources that Sarah just presented on. That will be February 20th, again, 2024 at 2 p.m. And you can scan these QR codes on the right, and that will take you to registration for both of these events. I will also be sending out, when I send out these slides, I can send the registration links as well for these if anybody's interested. So these are great opportunities to just kind of get some more information on local food for school procurements, and just connecting with those local producers here in Nebraska. And then we have some additional funding. There's quite a bit of grants going around right now from the USDA, and we just wanted to share these important opportunities. The first one is the fiscal year 24 USDA Farm to School grant. The deadline is January 12th. And this is for any programs or operations that you're trying to expand on in your school. So if you wanted to grow a greenhouse or build a greenhouse or anything like that that you really want to get some funds for, this would be a great opportunity for you. We have this Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant, the RFSI, the Project Scales, which is supporting community agriculture and local education systems, and then the Project Plants, which is Partnership for Local Agriculture and Nutrition Transformation in Schools. So a lot of different grants available right now for procuring local food, getting local food into your cafeteria. If you have any questions about any of these, you can reach out to myself or Sarah, and we'd be happy to help you to get more information, and just kind of grow and learn from these different sub-grants that are available right now. So, perfect. And that leads us to the end of our presentation. Do we have any questions?
Okay,
And
Taylor, we do see, do you want me to walk through some of these questions?
I was gonna say, yeah, I can't seem to access the chat, so.
Okay, so Jane in Fairbury asked, can I purchase a beef from a producer and have it processed only using the price of the beef as LFS funds? I was reading questions on the USDA website, and it says that it is not allowed to purchase a live animal. I need to know if it is an allowable purchase. And then Jane provided a link to the LFS FAQ document. And Anna responded that the purchase of an alive animal is not allowable. So Jane, does that answer your question enough, or do we need to have more conversation around that? Feel free to unmute. And this time is for your questions, you all, and to hear any successes you've had. So feel free to chime in here.
It doesn't really answer the how and why it's not allowable. Because if I'm buying a beef from a beef producer and I have it processed, how much more local am I going to get?
Anna, do you want to respond to that question?
Yes. Unfortunately, with LFS project is not allowable to buy the live animals. You can buy processed, minimally processed, as it is, like ground beef, stew meat, roast cuts, and things like that. You can buy this fresh, frozen and prepare in schools, but it is not allowable to. And then when you pay your meat that you are going to use, if it's beef or if it's ground beef or stew meat, the processing has to be included in your final price. This is how it works. So
thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Anna, do you want to introduce yourself quickly, since this group may not have met you before?
My name is Anna Michievich, and I'm working for USDA, and I'm program manager for LFS for Mountain and Plains, which Nebraska is part of. And I'm glad to be here today. And if anybody has any questions, please ask. But unfortunately, we cannot support the purchase of live animals.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we got a question from, and Katie, you may want to answer this one. I know you're there.
Yeah.
Okay, so from a food service management company, question here. Lunchtime Solution handles our nutrition program. Do we have to go through them to make these purchases, or can it be in addition to what they supply? For example, snacks for our after school or preschool program.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's kind of it depends sort of answer though. So you can purchase food items using the LFS funds and serve them alongside those meals that Lunchtime Solutions is providing to your school every day, so long as your contract agreement with LSI doesn't prevent that from happening. So I'd take a look at your your contract, the signed contract you've got in place to make sure it's okay for the school to provide extra items that are going to be served during mealtime. I'm sorry, I'm home with a sick child. You can probably hear her. The other part I was going to inquire about, Tammy, is snacks and preschool snacks, I guess, or after school program options. Are those meals or snacks you claim through the school meals program? So if the answer to that is yes, they are claimable snacks, reimbursable snacks that you claim and receive reimbursement for from us through NSLP, then yes, again, the answer to that's yes. If the preschool or after school snacks are in some way connected to or reimbursed through the Child and Adult Care Food Program, then the answer for using LFS funds for those items purchases is no, because there's a distinction here between the school lunch program and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So again, the purchases you're making or the reimbursement you're getting is for those items you purchase and use in the school lunch program, not the CACFP.
Thank you, Katie. Any clarity needed on that question before we move on?
I guess one question is that, so if we pay LSI for, for the meals, and we do get reimbursement for our after-school program. So if we did in addition to what they're providing and what they're charging, we still can't use it then, correct?
I intended to say that if you're making purchases of food items in addition to whatever LSI is providing you in your contract agreement, then that would be allowable, an allowable way to participate in the program and receive the reimbursement. You just need to make sure you check with LSI that there's not going to be some issue with your school making those additional purchases sort of outside of the contract agreement. Does that help?
That does help. One final question. So say a teacher wanted to do a unit on apples and that they wanted to use, could we use this program to help maybe purchase those from a local supplier to, use them in the classroom?
That's a good question and a really neat way to try to use the funds. However, the items purchased through the program have to be things you serve as part of a creditable meal in like the NSLP, which could be a breakfast meal, could be a lunch meal, or through NSLP or the school program's after school snack option. So if it's a classroom activity, not part of a reimbursable meal, then it's not an allowable way to use the funds. You shouldn't request reimbursement for those kinds of activities or purchases you're making. That was a good question. Thank you.
I'm going to hop over to one other question that Tammy had, and then we'll back up to a different question. But to confirm, can we buy vegetables from the local grocery store? Just asking them if they got, just by asking the grocer, if they got them locally, then we can use them in the claim. So I believe the answer to this is that the grocer would need to be a small business, falling under that small business definition that you're provided. You can look on your reimbursement spreadsheet where you're tracking your purchases. Taylor has the definition there. We also have it on our FAQ and on the USDA FAQ. And then if the producer that's sourcing to that grocery store is local, so within 400 miles, that food hasn't traveled more than 400 miles from where it was produced by the farmer to where it's ending up where you're serving it to your students, then if that is a local producer and a small business, then you would be able to purchase that product. Do you agree? Okay. getting some nods from Anna and from Taylor,
Yes.
so.
As long as it's local and small, you should be okay, and it all falls in the in 400 miles. It has to be from source to vehicle, the store, and store to school, all has to be in a hub of 400 miles.
Tammy, good there? Any clarity needed on that question? Okay, grocers can be a really good resource for us with our rural communities. So if you're able to, if that's a good way for you to access local foods, then that's a good option. Okay, Taylor, I don't know if we need to go back to our reimbursement slide, but here is a question about being reimbursed. If the first rounds of money are requested quarterly, how and when is round 4 claimed?
Sorry, cannot find my unmute button. So the fourth quarter would be due June 15th, 2024, with the processing payment happening on July 10th, 2024. So payments can be submitted before the deadline if you're not going to be in session, you're not going to be making any purchases. You could get it in before the June 15th, but they would just be due, June 15th, 2024, if that answers your question.
Okay, thanks, Taylor. Okay, Jordan is asking. Okay, Jordan, I don't know if you need a response to your comment here that the classroom expense is also a general fund expense, not hot lunch, so auditing gets muddy. Might need a little clarification on where you're going with this one, Jordan, and if we need to respond
Sorry.
here. That's okay.
No response is needed there. I was just saying, like, if you were buying your apples for the classroom, claiming it on LFS, like, even though we established that expense wouldn't be allowable, even from an auditing standpoint, if you were to receive a reimbursement from that, your reimbursement would go to the hot lunch fund, which is a 06, not an 01. So the auditors would ask questions about that anyway. So just something to be aware of.
Thank you, business manager. Yeah. Feel free to unmute if you all have questions.
This is Carrie Saunders Jones from Cedars. My question being that we're in Lincoln, and we talk about these rural grocery stores that are eligible. Could you talk to fair market price and how that would be used in the Lincoln area? Would it be appropriate to use 3 places like A Street Market and Leon's and compare that to Piedmontese when we're talking beef? Or is that not even in the world of fair marketplace, because we all darn well know that there's cheaper meat out there in the city?
I'll start, and then Taylor, maybe you want to hop in, or Katie or Anna. As an example with the grocers that you mentioned, if you were to purchase from a grocer like A Street Market or Leon's, they would likely fall under the small business definition. However, I don't know if their beef would. I don't know what beef they sell that is that's produced within 400 miles of that store, or only traveled 400 miles from the farm to the processor to where it was distributed at the store. Piedmontese likely is also small business. We would have to look and see about that. But if they are able to document who's producing that beef and they are indeed a small business, then purchasing from that Piedmontese producer would fall under the eligible use of these funds. Anna, what do you have to contribute to that?
Oh, okay. What I noticed to these 400 miles, you have to add the miles that has to go from from the grocer to the school as well, where it's going to be distributed. And then you have to have information where this food, where the produce is purchased. And then if the grocer cannot supply you this information, if it's like from a small business, or is it from where they acquired the produce, then it might be a problem. You have to have some chain of information that we can find out where this is produced, if it's in Nebraska or 400 miles. I mean, when we include all the traveling of the produce. And then if the produce is socially disadvantaged, farmers and small businesses are target or goal of our program, but you can buy even from a bigger bigger businesses, but they have to have headquarters in the Nebraska, and all the food that's going to be acquired has to be from this 400 miles circle and or from Nebraska.
Thank you for answering that question. I clearly understand that. The part that I'm confused about is fair market price.
Oh,
So
Yeah, so
where does that play
we are
into
not
all this?
included in that. This is up the state.
You don't have
Well,
to do the 3 bids for the LFS.
Oh, that's confusing because Katie, I think that you had been a part of an email that we had inquiring about Piedmontese, and we got verification from your department that yes, it was approved, but the issue was going to be fair market value. And so I'm not understanding how that works with this program.
gosh. Yeah, I would never say that I'm not wrong. I think I vaguely remember that message. I ought to go find it.
And
You're
that's
saying
really
what Honest said, it definitely contradicts the answer I gave you, right?
right. So we're just confused.
Yes, you should definitely go with Anna's answer. And I need to go back, find that message, make sure I reread it again and put the correct affirmative answer in writing in case you need to refer to it. I'll
Okay,
do that.
I appreciate that because that is
Thanks.
very helpful. That was confusing to us.
Well, I can understand why. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks
So
for asking,
Katie,
Terry.
what
You bet.
Anna said was that this is going to fall under what the state's requirements are. So we fall under the USDA micro purchasing threshold, which is what I think would hold true for these funds, right? Or are you saying, okay, and so what Andrew is wanting us to repeat is just repeat what's required as far as 3 bids or quotes. So as long as it falls in a micro purchase threshold, so under that $10,000 amount, the 3 bids is not required.
Thank you for verifying. I'm very happy.
Do you agree? Okay, Katie's giving the thumbs up. Taylor's happy with that, and Andrew seems okay with that too. Okay, great. I don't know if anyone sees any questions that I missed in the chat box. Feel free to help us out here if you do. Otherwise, do come off mute and share a question or even something that's worked well for you in utilizing these funds. Since Taylor's only received a reimbursement request through August 30th, the funds have likely made some purchases from then until now. And so if you have something that you could share with others about what you've used, how you've used the funds that might be useful to this group, then please do hop in and give us some of the successes you've had or challenges that you might want help with.
I have a question.
Okay, we're ready, Susan.
Okay, I guess I'm new to this, so well, everybody is, I suppose. So I can, for my local grocery stores where I'm getting stuff, so I can buy roasts and things like that, as long as the meat has come from within the 400 miles then, and use that for my menu?
And it should be fresh or frozen.
Yes, it would be their meat.
Just
Okay, because I guess I didn't know exactly what to use, you know what I mean? I'm just buying, because the only farmer or area that I know of is Daniel's Market, which is, I don't know, 15 miles from here, but they are a big Daniel's Produce. They sell, I don't consider them a small business or disadvantaged. They go everywhere. Farmers markets, Lincoln, I mean, they're everywhere. They're a big place. So that's why I don't know where else to get it besides the local grocery stores where I'm using it. But I didn't realize it was for beef and everything. So that's right. I can use it for the beef.
You can use it for minimally processed or unprocessed
Yep,
beef, or
okay.
pork. And Susan, I am familiar with Daniels, and while
Yes,
they're
that-
a large producer, we would consider them large in Nebraska, based off of what we have available to us. But for this funding stream, you are able to purchase from Daniels if you so choose. They are
Oh, I
considered
could.
small business. They
Okay.
are not necessarily, I don't think they're socially disadvantaged based off of the definition that we're utilizing, but
Mhm.
we're making an effort to target socially disadvantaged. That doesn't mean that we can only purchase from socially disadvantaged. So
Okay,
key here is that the funds can only be purchased from small businesses, which is a reason why something like fluid milk from Highland wouldn't
Yes.
be allowable, because that's not a small business, but Daniels falls under the definition of small business.
It does. So I could get that stuff from them. Okay,
Yep,
that's
you
good to
sure
know.
can.
I didn't know. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and Andrew was also saying that they purchased Lincoln Public Schools. Well, I don't know if you've used YISA cheese curds with your LFS funds, Andrew, but YISA cheese curds work as well. And I know that some of you all have used your funds to purchase YISA cheese. They are a small business and they are in Nebraska, so they would be an eligible vendor for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, one question though, I guess. So you said minimally processed, so you cannot get like their roast beef that would be a deli roast or nothing like that? No. To make subs or nothing like that? No. It'd have to just be the fresh roast that we would cook or something, correct?
You got it. You have
I
to
can
cook.
double check. I can double check what we have and let Sarah know.
Okay, because I was just curious, like something for a French dip sandwich or something. But I suppose we could just cook the roast and, the fresh roast and use that. Okay, thank you.
For French dips, you can also use Philly meat, which is just like a skirt steak, or if you use an eye round roast, that's a good slicing roast.
Is for that. Okay. Okay, thank you. I always try to find something different for the menu. And, that's something we haven't had forever because, the beef prices, there was nothing reasonable. Commodity used to give some meat like that. They had that offered years and years ago. But there hasn't been nothing like that lately.
Great question. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
While we just let you all think for another minute, make sure we've addressed your questions. To reiterate what Taylor shared on a slide before, we will be offering in January a market meetup, a virtual market meetup. We did this in 2021 with COVID and the supply chain disruption, and had some good results from it. We're hoping, so the market meetup itself will be open to those of you that are participating in local food for schools funding. And we would like to do a lot of outreach for producers that have interest in supplying to you. because you have those funds available right now. So if we might be reaching out as you report back who you're purchasing from to see if you can help us connect with those folks that you've made your purchases from, so we can invite them to join and potentially grow their understanding of what these opportunities are, what the market is, what your needs are, and potentially meet other schools that are interested in spending their funds down and utilizing this program. So you'll be seeing another email, I think, probably from Taylor, and with that information again about the market meetup, and then the webinar where we're going to hopefully be sharing a couple of your stories, having you all talk about what you've done that's worked well, so you can be learning from each other since you'll be the experts in this arena. Okay, Taylor, what else? Anything else come to mind for you?
I don't think so. Just a reminder that tomorrow is the second round of claims are due. So if you have not emailed it to the nde.lfs@nebraska.gov, go ahead and do that before tomorrow by 5 p.m. And yeah, reach out with any questions or concerns. We're here to help you.
And I think we can probably stay on the call for a couple minutes here. For those of you that might want to stay on and have a one-on-one question answered, then feel free. Otherwise, thank you all for your time, and we'll be getting updating our FAQ with your questions and the answers and sending out the recording and the slides. Thanks you guys for making time for this and doing such good work on spending these funds. Or do you see Barbara's question? Yeah.
Yeah, Barbara, you can submit a claim that goes beyond that first page of the template. You could just name it page 2 LFS claim, or I think how else you might need that. But yeah, I mean, anything that just, if you just attach them in the same email, that's even okay. Hope that answered your question.